Part 296. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2958. Of course not, Master Song said indifferently. There is no movement at the new salt farm. There is neither cutting and drying wood, nor the smoke from boiling salt. Obviously, the new salt farm is just a pretext, and it has not opened. The Yai has to rely on the salt field in Longqi. Why should I do such a thing? Songmeng immediately said, did the magistrate frame us? Master Song paused and shook his head. No, there is no need for him to do such a thing, Dalin. The most important thing for you right now is your own studies. Take the exam this year to go to the government school, or go to the capital to take the imperial examination. You don't need to worry about these things at home. Uncle Song also said, go back to study quickly. Songmeng is not too young. He clearly distinguishes between the family and the country. Of course, he also knows where the conflict between the family and the county government comes from. Always wanted to rob the salt field from our family. The previous magistrate Fang and magistrate Lu didn't say anything. Why can't they coexist peacefully with us like Magistrate Fang Lu? Master Song is about to speak, and Master Song has already said, so now we are trying to communicate with Magistrate Bai, and hope that he can be the same as Magistrate Lu, the former Magistrate Fang. It's okay, don't worry about these things, just concentrate on reading. Yes. If you can pass the Mingjing or Jinshi test and become an official in the dynasty, you will be able to rely on the Song family in the future, and naturally no one will easily bully our family. When Uncle Song saw his son, he saluted and resigned. His face was very ugly. Before waiting for his son to leave, he said dissatisfiedly, Father, why do you want to say such things to Dalin? This child is competitive. If you tell him like this, won't you let him get involved? Master Song's face sank. Why, do you suspect that I am plotting against Dalin? Don't forget, he is my eldest grandson, can I still harm him? Uncle Song did not speak. Dalin was his grandson, but he was not only a grandson of Dalin, but he had only one son of Dalin. Master Song didn't notice the expression on his son's face. He was in a bad mood. He pondered, I didn't expect the county school to be the first to make trouble. It seems that Bai Shan's prestige in Bihai County is not low now. He sighed, the foundation of our Song family is still too shallow. It would be good to have two more magistrates like Fang and Lu, but we met Lu and Bai. Bai Shan came forward to appease the students, and when he went to the medical office to see the old eighth who hit his head, he also said to Zhou Man, the foundation of the Song family is not deep, it just looks huge, but as long as you pull it hard, it is still very easy to get rid of. Can be pulled out. He said, speaking of which, the Song family's fortune has only been for the past 20 or 30 years. Before that, the foundation of the Song family was not comparable to that of the Zhao family outside the city. After seeing the patient, Zhou Man did not know where to find two peaches, gave one to Bai Shan, took one for himself, and sat on the railing while nibbling on the peaches while talking to him. How did the Song family make their fortune? Speaking of which, this is my fourth term, a county magistrate surnamed Wu. He invited the Song family to be his master at that time. Oh, he is the father of this Master Song. After 2 years, Magistrate Wu died of illness while in office. Magistrate Fang came, and he brought his master with him. That old MRS Song couldn't be a master in the county government anymore, so he found a stewardship in the salt farm and retired. Already, Fang County Magistrate felt that he was interesting, so he didn't touch him. Within 2 years, he felt that he was getting old, so he retired from the salt works and let his son, the current Master Song, take over the stewardship of the salt works. Bai Shandao, at that time, the magistrate of Fang didn't take the unprofessional officer of the salt field to heart. The salt field was basically under the control of the county government, and his words still worked. But this master song is more powerful than his father. He has been inserting his own people, from small managers, small bosses, to the newly elected salt-boiling long-term workers every year. By the time the magistrate Fang left, half of the people in the salt field were already under Master Song's hands. The magistrate Lu who took over was controlled in a confused way. By Shan's side, Fang County Chancellor said that as soon as Magistrate Lu took office, the Song family gave him a dismount, and then waited for the relationship with Magistrate Lu to deteriorate. Another large sum of money was given, and with a handful of them, the Magistrate Lu was stunned, thinking that the Song family was such a powerful squire here, so he didn't dare to act rashly. After waiting for 2 or 3 years, he found out the details of the Song family. Master Song has already held all the salt farms in his hands, and the county magistrate Lu and the Song family have been getting along well in the past few years. He doesn't want to tear his face. So I have been hesitant to do it. Zhou Man was stunned. This Master Song is amazing, but since he is so powerful, why would he want to pry at the walls of the imperial court? There are so many lucrative businesses in this world, why do you have to hang yourself on the salt field? Bai Shan smiled and said, there are many profitable businesses in the world, but the most profitable ones, apart from salt and iron, are only tea, silk, and porcelain, and other businesses. The Song family is not a very powerful aristocrat, and it can still be found in Bihai County. Said to be a country gentleman, he is nothing if he leaves Bihai County. If you want to change your family, you need to study and have a good reputation. They obviously won't go into business. Controlling the salt works should be the best way to make money and gain power they can think of. Zhou Man thought of his own family, and said proudly, my family doesn't force it, everyone has their own way of living, sometimes they have to manage, but sometimes they can't control it too much. If you want me to say that Master Song can manage it too wide, too long, when he was young and strong, he was already thinking about the career of his descendants for the next 3 or 4 generations, isn't this looking for guilt? Bai Shan nodded, thinking that it was wrong, so he couldn't help but ask her, don't you want the future of your children in the future? Zhou Manbian said, I don't want to, as long as they have good character and what they want to learn, I will send them to learn what they want to learn. Naturally, what they want to do when they grow up is naturally their own business, but if they ask I will also advise them. Seeing that she was so proud, Bai Shan couldn't help raising his hand and pressing her head, you have grown up, you should be more reserved when you are proud, don't raise your chin too proudly. Zhou Man patted his hand away, gave him a sideways look and asked, are you going to ask them to become officials in the future? That's not enough, Bai Shan said, bending one leg against the railing, looking at the blue sky, being an official is sometimes fun, but more often I feel very restrained, if I hadn't stood up before Hung Ji, and has been working hard for it, I don't think I will stick to officialdom. He said, so if they don't want to be officials in the future, it's fine to do other things. As long as the family has land, books, and continuous farming and reading, the natural inheritance will continue. See you at 9. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2959. After Bai Shan finished speaking, he retracted his gaze and looked at Zhou Man. The two reached a consensus, reached out and gave each other a high five and then smiled. Zhou Mandeo, that's fine. I'll write this paragraph down on the memo when I go back, and I'll take it out when I have a child in the future. You can't beat and scold your children because they don't do well in their homework or don't work. Bai Shan frowned, am I that kind of person? Zhou Man said, that's not necessarily true. Some men are highland jade trees when they are young, and when they get older, they become black withered trees and old vines. These words scared Bai Shan to touch his face immediately, and his hands were smooth. He breathed a sigh of relief, it was okay. Although he's grown now, he doesn't carry a little baby fat like he did a few years ago, but he looks more determined after he has edges and corners, and he is still very satisfied. Bai Shan quietly went to look at Zhou Man, stretched out his finger and poked her waist, and asked, "Then do you think I am as Hailan Yushu now, or?" Zhou Man turned his head and looked at him critically. After a while, he said reluctantly, "Let's call it as Hailan Jade Tree." Bai Shan was unhappy. Yes, yes, no, no, what does it mean? Can you tell me clearly, is it as Hailan Yushu? Zhou Man thought about it, and said with a tangled face, "I think you are the star of the moon, or the tree orchid. You must be a gentle person like Brother Yang." Bai Shan tried his best to hold down the corners of his upturned mouth, and nodded reluctantly, "Okay, the star of the moon will be the star of the moon." The eyes of the two met, and he couldn't help laughing. His eyes were full of stars, and he was so lively. Zhou Manbian couldn't help but laugh. The two laughed at the silly for a long time. Daji coughed heavily, and the two returned to their senses and turned to look at him together. Daji nodded his chin forward, and the two looked over. Kui Yuan stood at the door awkwardly, with one foot inside the door and the other outside the door, neither entering nor exiting. Bai Shan cleared his throat, got up and asked, "Is there something wrong with the county government?" Kui Yuan breathed a sigh of relief, and immediately entered the door and said, "Sir, an urgent official document has been sent to the capital." Bai Shan turned back and nodded to Zhou Man, and went back with Kui Yuan. The bodyguards who came to deliver the official documents were familiar with Bai Shan and could often be seen in the palace. Bai Shan opened the official document and looked at it. He was slightly overjoyed and couldn't help asking, "When will they arrive?" The guards said, "His Royal Highness was already preparing when we left the capital, and it should be on the way now." Bai Shan pondered, "Where is Governor Guo?" "He has also received the official document," the guard said after a pause. "His Royal Highness is traveling on the grounds of inspection, so there is no time for the official documents to the provincial governor's offices, and Master Tang of Jingzhou Mansion, if your highness has something to say, no extravagant reception is allowed in all places. Once discovered, the source of the cost will be found out. When the time comes, at the censor terrace, His Highness will not intercede for those who knowingly committed crimes." Bai Shan understood, this is to make him be careful. Because he is familiar, he is also direct and speechless. "I want to entertain His Highness well, but the county government has to be rich. Look at me in Bihai County." His Royal Highness also said that although it can't be extravagant, at least food and lodging must be normal. The guard immediately interrupted Bai Shan's words, saying, "Don't cry with your highness to be poor, His Highness has no money right now." Bai Shan looked in disbelief. "It's true," the guard sighed, "I heard from the adults in Zhan Shifu that the expenses of the Imperial Physician's office this year are too high." His Majesty gave several bills to the prince, and several large expenditures were paid by the East Palace. Although the emperor didn't say it clearly, the bills were all sent to Zhan Shifu. Bai Shan looked confused. "Has Manbao spent money recently?" The guard looked at him suspiciously. "Don't Master Bai know?" "Because Master Zhou ordered one more Wen Tiandong to come to Qingzhou, and now the local medical offices that have opened are all dignitaries from the Imperial Medical Office, and I want more. To add one more person, it is best to have a male doctor and a female doctor, saying that this will allow more female patients to go to the medical office to see a doctor. Since the number of people has increased, the expenses have naturally increased. There are more female patients seeing a doctor, and the expenditure on medicinal materials has also increased, so." Bai Shan was silent. He got up and said, "I see, don't worry, I won't ask the prince for money. You can have normal hospitality, but forget about luxury and the like." The safest place was naturally their county office. Bai Shan looked around and decided to rent a house. When the prince arrived, they would move out and temporarily let the prince live in the backyard of the county office. Knowing that the prince was going to visit the salt field, Bai Shan was happy even when he tried Zhu Qi and others. With a happy smile on his face, he said, "Come on, if you want to confess, you can do it, if you don't want me to replace it." This casual attitude made Zhu Qi feel aggrieved, and she felt uneasy if she didn't. Judging from the situation last night, there was no need for Bai Shan to judge, everyone rushed to confess, so it seemed that it was useless for him to keep his mouth shut. Zhu Qi sighed and could only do it. Bai Shan asked the clerk to memorize the confession and sign the document after it was postponed, and summoned Dong County Wei to say, "Go to the Song family to get someone." Song Min. Bai Shan nodded and asked, "Is there any problem?" Wei Dong said, "Sir, he's just a nephew of Master Song, and he's still a concubine. It's useless to take him." Bai Shan said, "I don't care if it's useful or not." Zhu Qi confessed that he was instructed, "Then arrest him and follow the law." "And who said it was useless?" Regardless of who was arrested, as long as the surname was Song, or had a relationship with the Song family on the bright side, this matter was a big blow to the Song family. He just escorted people back to the county seat, and the students of the county school couldn't help but get angry. At this time, people from the Song family were arrested, and the insightful people in the city would probably hate the Song family even more. Do you really think that a country gentleman's family is so easy to become? Any family that can become an aristocratic family must have the ability to protect one side of the land, and also have the prestige to manage one side of the land. And what they did during the inheritance of the aristocratic family was another matter. It is their Bai clan in Longzhou, which has now fallen to the tail of the aristocratic family, but they still have prestige in Longzhou today. Very good, the food that should be donated, and the refugees who should be resettled. The Bai family was able to become an aristocratic family. For hundreds of years, their ancestors had many ancestors who asked for their lives. Even Bai Shan, who did not like the family very much, has to say that he now occupies a little of the shade left by the trees planted by the ancestors. The Song family still has to grind if they want to dominate one side. First, there was the magistrate Lu, and now there is Bai Shan. It is basically impossible for him to buy people's hearts to gain prestige. Bai Shan tisk said, "The place your majesty chose for me is really wonderful, I'm so lucky. See you at 11 o'clock. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2960. The emperor was also talking about this to the queen. "I really chose Qingzhou for Bai Shan at the beginning. I said, there are salt and squires there, but there are no big family lords, just to practice for him." You see, he practiced and practiced to get the salt out. Seeing him so proud, the queen couldn't help but smile. "Your majesty is wise." The emperor became more and more complacent, but after a while he was lost again, sighing, "I don't know where Mingda and the others are at this time, the prince is not very caring, what if you are in a hurry?" "Oh, blame me, we shouldn't let them go together." The queen changed the subject and said, "Your majesty, why did I hear that Bai Shan also handled a major case in Bihai County and made great contributions?" "Oh, I heard from the Ministry of Punishment that he brought people to suppress the bandits," the emperor said after a pause, and his eyes narrowed slightly. "There are bandits in Bihai County, that Dalan and Mingda. The news he only received today. Oh, Mingda and the others have already set off for several days, it is too late to regret it." "Queen, has been exterminated." The emperor breathed a sigh of relief, nodded and said, "Suppressed." But he still regretted it in his heart. If only the news arrived a few days earlier. Why didn't Bai Shan rush to report to Beijing for such an important matter? But he handed the official document up slowly. A few days earlier, he had an excuse to prevent Mingda from going to Bihai County. The queen said, This is not a big deal. Naturally, it is according to the rules. If he is reported to the top, the outside world thinks that he is more domineering and domineering. It's not a matter of secrets. If things like suppressing bandits are also sent to the capital, by sending them to the capital, Bai Shan's career will come to an end. The emperor was just talking lively at this moment. I don't know if Bai Shan will take over county affairs when Mingda and the others arrive in Bihai County, or they may be bothered by their local competition. The queen just pretended not to hear it, and let him mutter on the side. Bai Shan arrested Song Min, and was not in a hurry to interrogate him. Because it was getting dark, he was sent to the prison first, and we would talk about it tomorrow. Then he happily went to the hospital to pick up Jo Man, and wanted to go out to dinner with her. As a result, when he arrived at the hospital, it was bustling with a group of crying children. Bai Shan was startled, and quickly picked up his robe and trotted in. He saw Jo Man's Hung pinching a child's face, holding a chopstick in his hand and pressing it in, and the child immediately vomited and kept spitting out. Wen Tiandong, who was beside him, also had a child in his hand and was also inducing vomiting. The Western Cake, who was helping in the medical office, ran out with a basin and shouted, "The salt water is ready, the salt water is ready." The family of the child on the side immediately took a bowl to collect the water. Jo Man shoved the person into the parents' arms and asked them to pour water, let him drink, the more he drinks, the better. Then he scooped up a child who was beside him, and induced her vomiting in the same way. Wen Tiandong also completed the one in his hand, and also asked the parents to pour water, and pulled the last little boy over to induce vomiting. The yard was full of vomiting, and there was also the cry of a child who was being irrigated with water, but the cries were intermittent. Jo Man also induced vomiting on the child in his hand, and then handed it back to their parents to let them fill with water, and then pulled the child who had only been filled with 2 bowls of water to continue to induce vomiting. Children. Jo Man squatted on the ground and looked at what they spit out, and felt that the last vomit was nothing, so he stopped. Then began to teach their parents and elders to touch the children's younger generation to comfort the child. She turned to look for the needle bag. Bai Shan handed her a bag of needles and asked, "What's wrong?" Only then did Jo Man see him, and sighed. They ran to pick 1,000 pieces of gold to eat. The parents cried out, "Sir, it's not a daughter of gold, but a bodhisattva bean." Jo Man, the same, come and come, don't cry, it's already vomited, I'll give them acupuncture to calm their stomachs. The children were crying less and less, but when they saw her approaching, they cried louder again, twisting and kicking, not wanting to let her approach. Jo Man reached out and patted his back, stroking back and forth along his back. Don't cry, I won't pick your throat, look, you're sweating, don't you? Come, let's pull your clothes up a little bit to cool down a bit. Bai Shan looked left and right, and went to the shelf to get a dry towel for her. Jo Man was about to order someone from the medical office to get it. Seeing that, he took it and wiped him with a handkerchief while the child's parents rolled up their sleeves. The sweat on my arm, I took out a needle and pinched the acupuncture point and stuck it in. It was probably the first time the child got a needle, so he didn't know what to fear, and the needle was like an ant biting, and it didn't hurt much. Although he was still shaking, he didn't cry anymore. Jo Man put 3 stitches on his arm like this, and then changed his arm. After piercing his arms, he also pierced his 2 legs, and 2 more stitches on his stomach. The child sat on the small stool, looked down at his hands, then at his feet, and finally at his belly. His mouth was deflated and he wanted to cry. The parents of the child hurriedly coaxed him, "When you are well, my mother will buy some snacks for him. You eat." Jo Man had already gone to pierce another child, and pointed at Wen Tiandong while piercing. "Just now, the vomiting was so bad that it was too convulsing, so I should use acupuncture to consolidate it, calm the nerves, and calm their frightened stomachs. Wen Tiandong responded and listened to the instructions to pierce needle by needle. While piercing his own patient, Zhou Man distracted and glanced at it, nodding slightly when he saw that there was nothing wrong. After the 4 children were all tied with needles, Zhou Manke and Bai Shan said to Bai Shan, "I was greedy, I saw the wild fruit and thought it was edible, so I picked it myself and ate it. The gold is poisonous, so they eat it. There are still quite a few, but luckily it was delivered quickly." Bai Shan frowned. Zhou Man then said, "So I decided to find a place in the city to teach people about wild fruits, especially children. There are more and more wild fruits in June, so be careful." The parents of the children on the side nodded again and again. Every year there are children who eat the wrong food and die. Bai Shan frowned. "Aren't you going to teach your children?" "Whoever said not to teach? We told Bodhisattva beings long ago not to eat, not to eat. Who knows, if one can't stand it, they still eat it." Zhou Man went to see 4 children, and the eldest was only about 7 years old. Although she could remember a lot of fruits and plants at the age of 7, based on the average situation of her nephews, if there were no older children to follow, 6-7-year-olds may not be able to remember what Bodhisattva beings look like. After thinking about it, she said, "Just say that they don't let them eat the wild fruits outside. If the children can't tell the difference, then directly eliminate the possibility of eating them by mistake." See you tomorrow. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2961. After taking care of the 4 children, Man Bao determined that they had no major problems, and then prescribed a pair of detoxification soup for them to eat. In fact, he made soup with raw licorice and mung beans, which was not only simple but also cheap. The pharmacy of the medical department has it. When Tiandong caught them 4 sets of medicines, 1 for each family, and 1 set only cost 5 cents. He handed it to them and said, "Take them to the medical office tomorrow to have a look. If everything is okay, you don't need to take any more medicine." Parents didn't expect it to be so cheap, so they took out copper money to pay, and they couldn't react when they took their children away. The reason why they brought their children here for the first time was because they knew that many children who ingested poisonous fruits by mistake could not be rescued, and those who were rescued would always have many problems. At that time, I thought that Lord Zhou and Lord Wen in the medical office were imperial physicians in the capital, and their medical skills were definitely better than those of the doctors in the pharmacy of the medical center, so they ran over with their children without a second thought. Unexpectedly, not only was the child cured, but the medicine was so cheap. As soon as the patient left, Bai Shan invited Zhou Man, "Let's go out to dinner tonight." Zhou Man replied, "But I have to go back and change my clothes. I vomited a bit on my body just now." Bai Shan responded and walked through the alley with her to go home. He said, "The capital has sent a letter saying that His Royal Highness is going to Beijing to inspect and will come to Bihai County to see the salt field." He said happily, "By that time, the method of drying salt will be popularized on a large scale. Maybe the salt tax in the south of the Yangtze River will also be improved. I don't know if the salt administration in Dajin will be changed. Is the prince presiding over this matter?" Bai Shan thought for a while and said, "It should be the prince presiding over." He said, "Your Majesty is letting the prince accumulate prestige, which is a good thing, but it is also very dangerous. The more you do, the more you may be wrong. As a prince, especially a prince whose emperor is still in good health, sometimes it is the most correct to keep a low profile and not do extra things. But the prince's temperament and the expectations of His Majesty and courtiers for the prince made him compelled to do it. Especially the emperor's request for the prince. Bai Shan sometimes thinks that the prince is also very difficult. Your Majesty wants His Highness to be the overlord, but he doesn't like him being too strict with his brothers and sisters, and he can't be eager in political affairs." When Bai Shan was the emperor's Zhongshuiren, he accompanied him almost every day. He didn't say Bai Shan's request to the prince, even the courtiers who were not familiar with the emperor's prince knew it. The emperor himself is a violent temper, and he wants the prince to be a hegemon and at the same time be gentle, and the prince is clear and clear. Bai Shan just thinks about it and gives the prince a headache. In the end, he could only sigh. Oh. Zhou Man also gave a sympathetic sigh. The two looked at each other, and at the same time sympathized with the prince in their hearts, and then left him behind. Zhou Man waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, let's go, let's have dinner. The sky and the earth are big, and the food is the biggest." The two brought Daji and Zibing out to eat. Bihai County is so big, in fact, they consciously didn't need anyone to follow. But Daji and Zibing were used to it, and Bai Shan didn't despise them either. He took out a folding fan and wandered around with Zhou Man to find a restaurant. At this time, there was a lot of food on the street, and Bai Shan was trying to find a restaurant that seemed to have the most customers. Zhou Man suddenly pointed to a stall by the roadside and said, "That restaurant's noodles look delicious, their tofu is delicious. Looks good too." Bai Shan turned his head to look. It was a street stall with only 4 tables. The people at one of the tables ordered a few side dishes and noodles. The tofu looked really good, and it was very appetizing. Bai Shan thought for a while and said, "Then let's go eat." The 4 of them found a table and sat down. Bai Shan said, 4 bowls of noodles, a few side dishes, and a tofu. This kind of small stall can cook very few dishes. Basically, there are only a few dishes. There are very few people who order. Basically, only people who pass by and drink will order. So the stall owner asked, "Would you like to bring you a bowl of wine?" Bai Shan refused. The store owner looked at Bai Shan and Zhou Man, and recognized them, and was a little excited. "It's the county magistrate and Lord Zhou." Bai Shan and Zhou Man both smiled and nodded at him reservedly. The two of them, one held court every day to hear the case some time ago, and the other was a publicity and medical office that walked through the streets, so most of the people in the county had seen them and knew them. The stall owner was very happy, and he was not afraid that Bai Shan would not give him money. He worked very hard to cook 4 bowls of noodles for them. The dishes were quickly prepared and served, and the 4 of them took chopsticks and started eating. The noodles are very strong, and I don't know what kind of soup is used to cook them. Bai Shan sweated lightly on his forehead. After tasting the tofu with chopsticks, he nodded slightly, took 2 pieces for Zhou Man, and praised, "It's very good, you can try it." Zhou Man tasted a piece and nodded, "The sauce he used is good, is this bean paste?" The stall owner who had been nearby heard the praise of the two, and immediately said happily, "Yes, yes, this is bean paste. If the adults like it, I will give you a small jar for a while, and it is also very good to eat it with steamed buns when you take it home." Delicious. Bai Shan smiled and asked, "How much is a bottle?" "No money, no money, it's a small honor for adults to like it." Bai Shan smiled, and after eating with Zhou Man, he also accepted the sauce he sent, but he also gave him some more money. The stall owner was very embarrassed and insisted on going back. Bai Shan smiled and said, "If you insist on going back, we will not dare to come to you to eat noodles in the future." The stall owner accepted it. Master Song, who had been waiting at the restaurant not far from the diagonally opposite, saw them get up and walked forward side by side again. After lingering at one stall, he turned around and entered another shop selling porcelain. Master Song. Song Dalan didn't expect it either. He looked away from the window and said, "Father, it looks like they won't go into the restaurant. If we think about it again, it might be inappropriate. Why don't we just post it directly?" Master Song pursed the corners of his mouth tightly and said, "Isn't the post already posted? Is there a reply?" Uncle Song, no, maybe he didn't see it. After being silent for a while, Master Song shook his head, "It's not too late for this matter. When he goes to court, this matter will spread more widely, and it will be a big blow to the reputation of the Song family. Uncle Song was actually a little angry. He said, "Father, Songmin is so disobedient to discipline. We clearly told him to keep an eye on the things that go in and out of everyone's depression, but he directly sent someone to sneak into the new salt field, and even used us the chess pieces that the Song family placed in Luo Patrol. If you want him to say it, you shouldn't care about the other party." Master Song didn't want to care either, but he couldn't. Before Bai Shan arrested Song Min, he thought that the actions of Zhu Qi and his party were that someone framed their Song family. After all, he knew best whether they had sent someone to sneak into everyone's valley to check the new salt field. He felt that with Bai Shan's ability, he would definitely be able to find out that they were framed. Who knows, it was really sent by their Song family. Master Song is very passive now. See you at 7. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2962. Master Song thought for a while, then got up and walked downstairs. No matter what, Song Min would be fished out, and the Song family's reputation could not be damaged. He sighed, feeling that Bai Shan's purpose had been achieved. Zhou Man picked up a plate and looked at it, and felt that it was still not good looking. It was far worse than what she saw in the capital. Next time I go to Qingzhou City to see if there is anything good, His Royal Highness didn't come, just come. I don't mind that the porcelain in our house is not good enough. Bai Shan also took a look around, but he didn't like it either. He heard the words and nodded. Okay, next time, Xiu Mu, let's go to Qingzhou City to take a look. Anyway, Qingzhou City is not far away. I can still play for a day when I take a break. I will chat with the county magistrate and discuss the problems of Bihai County with him. As a predecessor, he must know more about the situation in Bihai County than his new county magistrate. Since they are all allies, it is natural to have more communication and cooperation. Zhou Man was about to turn around and go out, when he glanced at a slender beauty bottle on a shelf. She snorted and stepped forward to look. The shopkeeper had been waiting. Before Bai Shan and Zhou Man didn't like his porcelain, he didn't say anything. When he saw that Zhou Man liked it, he immediately went up to him and introduced with a big smile, "Master Zhou likes this beauty." The bottle? It was shipped from Shangzhou. The best white porcelain is very beautiful, whether it is paired with spring flowers in spring, or red plums and wax plums in winter. Bai Shan glanced at it and said, "Take it down and have a look." The shopkeeper immediately took it down carefully and showed it to Bai Shan. The two went up to take a look. It was indeed delicate. Although it was not as meticulous as the one used in the capital, it was also quite interesting. "Bai Shandao, how much is this price?" After thinking about it, the shopkeeper said tentatively, 10 coins. "Bai Shan, you ask me." The shopkeeper became more confident and said with a smile, "If the magistrate and Lord Zhou like it, $10 will do." Bai Shan said without changing his face, "It's too expensive, at most 8 hangings." On Thursday, brother also brought in some porcelain from Shangzhou and sent it to the grasslands and the western regions. In the past 2 years, in order not to fall from the farmer to the merchant, he mainly bought and sold medicinal materials, tea, and agricultural products such as cattle and sheep. Less handled. But no matter how little, there are still some. Bai Shan didn't miss the porcelain he brought back, and he naturally knew how much the bottle was worth. The shopkeeper didn't expect the county magistrate Bai to be so ruthless, and he reached his bottom line with a single price. Seeing that Magistrate Bai and Lord Zhou were looking at him quietly, he nodded with a painful expression, "Forget it, the 8 hanging money, Lord, take it." Bai Shan smiled and said, "We didn't carry so much money with us, so we sent them to the backyard of the county government and paid them in May." The shopkeeper complied and took a list to sign for Bai Shan. The two of them were content to go out, but as soon as they turned around, Master Song brought someone in. When the two met, Bai Shan was stunned for a moment, but Master Song immediately laughed, raised his hand and saluted, "Master Bai, Master Zhou, what a coincidence today, are the two adults here to buy porcelain?" Bai Shan also returned to his senses and said with a smile, "Walking around after dinner, Master Song also has such an elegant look today." It's not uncommon for Bai Shan and Zhou Man to go shopping, but what is strange is that Master Song, who sees the dragon but does not see the end, even goes out to shop. Master Song said with a smile, "It's a coincidence, this old man also took a walk after dinner. What kind of good china did the two adults like? I wonder if they can share it?" Bai Shan felt that he didn't want to appreciate porcelain with them, but because he rarely had time to go shopping with Zhou Man, so he didn't plan to spend his time playing the game, so he said directly, "We've finished watching it, it's just an ordinary white man. It's just porcelain, there should be quite a few in Master Song's house." He looked out at the sky and smiled, "It's getting late." The implication is very strong. Mr. Song had no choice but to say straight to the point, "Master Bai, Song wants to have a talk with Master alone. Do you want us to sit in the tea house next door?" Bai Shan glanced at Zhou Man. Zhou Man knew that he would not suffer, and that the county government and the medical office were separate. She could know the news from Bai Shan, but it was not easy to directly participate in the affairs of the county government, so she nodded slightly, "I was shopping on the street for a while. Walk around and see what else is worth buying." Bai Shan replied with a smile, and let Zibing follow her closely. Zhou Man and Master Song nodded and left with the cake. Zibing was a little unhappy, and felt that Mr. Song was too unpleasant, and it was hard for the lady and the master to go out to go shopping. He's not an official in the county government office, so what are the important things that he has to tell the boss now? Zhou Man picked up the wood carvings on the booth indifferently and said, "What about Songmin and the salt field?" Zhou Man guessed right, Master Song was indeed looking for Bai Shan for Songmin and Yan Chang. He first expressed his sadness and regret that Songmin actually instructed Zhu Qi and others to investigate the new salt field, and then said that Songmin was his clan after all. Run for him, so I hope the county magistrate can open up the net. Of course, in order to express sincerity and to eliminate conflicts, he believes that the Longqi salt field should start construction as soon as possible, and as June is approaching, Bihai County also needs to send a batch of official salt to the governor's office, and the county government also needs to have income. In short, Master Song is willing to come forward and persuade the stewards and workers of the salt works to start work. Bai Shan refused. Master Song was stunned for a moment. Bai Shan smiled and said, "Master Song is afraid that he has misunderstood. The closure of the Longqi salt field is not because the stewards and workers are unwilling to start work and then recruit another batch to learn to cook salt. The reason why it stopped working is because the county does not want it to be open. The prince is coming soon, and the salt drying method is about to leave Bihai County and face the whole Jin dynasty. Will he still care about a small Longqi salt field?" Bai Shan emphasized again, "The world's salt and iron are all government run, and the Longqi salt field is also the great Jin dynasty, which belongs to the Bihai County government. No one can surpass the Bihai County government to decide its life and death." Master Song's complexion changed, and he couldn't help but bring out some savage aura, and he looked at Bai Shan sharply. Bai Shan looked back at him lightly, without fear. The eyes of the two met in the air, and after a long time, the forehead of the Song master was sweating, and he couldn't help but look away. "Master Bai, it's better to think about it. After all, in 1 month, the governor's mansion will have official salt." Bai Shan's face was calm, as if he didn't care at all. Master Song's heart kept sinking. He wasn't sure if Bai Shan was pretending, or if he really had such confidence. Could it be that there was something tricky in the new salt farm? He already had enough official salt. See you at 10 p.m. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2963. Master Song looked at the back of Bai Shan leaving, his mood fluctuated. Song Dalan was also surprised and couldn't help but say, "Father, we have given him steps, why can't he go down?" Even when they were facing the county magistrate, they had never been so humble. Master Song retracted his gaze and said, "It's normal for children of noble families to be confident. But the official salt for the governor's mansion, could the governor of Guo still want this batch of official salt?" Master Song shook his head. "I have to send someone to take a look at the new salt field. I always feel a little uneasy. Maybe they already have enough official salt. There are people who are patrolling Luo over there now. I have inquired. The people he brought to the new salt field are all his confidants." Song Dalan said, "Those are the people who inspected Luo, and we can't get close at all. When it comes to Zhu Qi and the others, they are more closely guarded." Master Song said, "Since people can't get in, let the news come out and spend money to smash it. If 10 pieces of money can't buy the news, then use 100 pieces, 200 pieces. Fortunately, Master Song didn't say 1,000 slings, so Song Dalan quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Of course, it is impossible for them to do things like throwing money. They were looking for some family members of soldiers they were familiar with. The money went down, and the next day someone took clothes and other things and went to everyone. Unfortunately, they didn't see anyone. It is said that the other side of everyone is under strict investigation to prevent someone from colluding with the bandits, let alone meeting. The clothes, rice, and noodles that were sent over have been returned, and there is no way to get in at all." Another servant came in and said, "Master, the county government office is open." Master Song rubbed his forehead with a headache, feeling very uncomfortable. He didn't understand, how could the situation turn sour overnight? What's so tricky about the new salt field? The unequal news made Master Song very anxious, he knew it earlier. Still too conceited, Master Song felt that he underestimated the enemy. The magistrate Lu was so shrewd and capable, he came to Bihai County for 2 years before he challenged the Song family, but he also had mixed wins and losses. He saw that Bai Shan was so much younger than the magistrate Lu. Who knows? Master Song returned to his senses and said, "Go to the warehouse and take out that coral tree, and then bring a bunch of dendrobium pearls. Let's go to Qingzhou City." Song Dalan was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but ask, "Father, why did you bring so many things? We haven't paid homage since Guo Shishi took office, so let's make a special trip to visit this time." Song Dalan was in pain. "Father, that coral tree is..." Master Song stopped him and said, "Only if the family is strong, Menger will have the resources in the future, and it will be easy to want these things." Song Dalan could only go to the warehouse to get things, but he was still very sad. Even the county magistrate did not force them to come this far. Master Song was also reflecting, and finally felt that it was because he despised Bai Shan too much. Bai Shan is trying the case, this case is not suspenseful, Zhu Qi recruited, and the gangsters who followed Zhu Qi also confessed. Song Min looked from side to side, and he didn't deny it at all, he made a quick move. He instructed Zhu Qi and the others to investigate the new salt field. The attitude of admitting guilt was very good, but the other party firmly denied that the matter had anything to do with Master Song and the Song family behind him. When asked about the reason for committing the crime, he said, "The youngest is the steward of the Longqi salt factory, but because of the new salt factory, the Longqi salt factory has always been it was closed, and I was not convinced, so I wanted to see what was going on in the new salt field, so I bought Zhu Qi and others to take a look." It doesn't matter whether people outside believe it or not, Bai Shan doesn't believe it anyway, but he still judged according to this confession. First, Song Min was taken away from the responsibility of stewardship, then he was fined, punished with a stick, and sentenced to 6 months in prison. As for Zhu Qi and others, Bai Shan thought about it and felt that it was too expensive to put them in prison. Now that the official salt has not been shot, the county government has already spent all the money, and he basically relies on him to subsidize it. He should not give it to the prison. County government increased the burden, so he punished them with sticks and punished everyone with hard labor for 3 months. Lieutenant Dong Xian was a little stunned and asked, "My lord, where are they going to serve at this moment? You can't send it to the salt field, can you?" "Let them build the road," Bai Shan said. "Just build the mountain road from Xiaoliu village. The road should be flat enough to allow a carriage to pass in and out. Captain Dong County, this money. Although they are punished for hard labor and do not need wages, they need money for food and drink, and money for tools. Bai Shandao, I'll ask Master Song to allocate some of them, and you send 3 yeomen to watch them." Captain Dong Xian stared, 18 people only send 3 yeomen to watch. Is it too few? They're all people with families and businesses, they dare to escape, Bai Shan said after a pause. Just don't bully them, just serve normally, and have what you need to eat and drink. By the way, let them stay at the foot of the mountain. They live in tents and allow their families to bring them clothes and stuff. The daily work and rest are in accordance with the county government's arrival. There are only 3 hours a day. In the extra time, let the government officials teach them the laws of Dajin, so as to avoid accidentally committing crimes in the future. Wei Dongxian was a little embarrassed, and asked cautiously, "Sir, I'm afraid that the General Yamen will not understand this Jin law. Why don't you understand?" Bai Shan frowned. Even if the son inherits his father's business, he didn't come in through the exam, he should know the basics, right? Stealing, robbery, and murder are the most basic, and lighter. Yes, insults and beatings are also illegal. Don't think that these trivial matters are not illegal when they are usually handled by them. In short, let them all learn. Dong Xianwei could only respond cautiously, but did not dare to tell Bai Shan that of the 48 yeoman servants in the county government, 16 of them inherited their father's business or their brother's business, and only 3 passed the Ming Law examination of the county examination. Those who come in, the rest are all about taking relationships or helping to transfer to yeoman. There is no systematic study, and things like the law, small things are upright, and big things go to the county government. The major events that can be found from the county government are murder and arson, robbery and theft will not be ordinary stealing. As for things like insulting, beating up your wife and beating your son, you usually don't report to the yeoman. The neighbors will help persuade first. If you can't do it, there will be Gangxian, and there will be Li Zheng on top of the Gangxian. To the county office. But this kind of thing, everyone did not expect it to be illegal before. In other words, is it really illegal? Even Dong Xianwei himself had some doubts when he read the law of Jin. He didn't see this offense in the law book. So he couldn't hold back and asked Bai Shan. Bai Shan said speechlessly, "How can you not break the law? Look carefully, Jin law has justice, not to mention between husband and wife, even if there is beating, when things like murder and adultery happen, no matter what the will of the husband or wife is, they can be sentenced to divorce, and the violator can be sentenced. Jiao Wu has not beaten his wife less often. Repent, is this not breaking the law? See you tomorrow." Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2964. Dong Xianwei was a little dumbfounded, and he didn't watch Jin Lawless. Why didn't he remember this? Bai Shan knew when he saw his expression, so he asked a yeoman to draw a copy of the Law of Jin in his office. He opened it directly and handed it to Lieutenant Dong. motioning him to look. Dong Xianwei bowed his head. There was only one sentence on it: relatives have hatred, whoever commits beating, murder, adultery, etc., will be sentenced to absolute justice, and violators will be punished. After reading the law of Jin for so many years, Wei Dong had never paid attention to this line of small characters. He was a little unsure. What do you mean by that? Bai Shan lifted his eyelids to look at him and said, it means that you fought with your brother-in-law and broke his brother's leg. The county government can sentence you and your wife to reconcile, love. The county government will also sentence you and your wife to reconcile, not to mention murder and other things. If the two families become enemies, the love and righteousness of the husband and wife will be damaged. Everything comes according to the law, and what should be judged will be judged, and what should be released will be released. Wei Dong's back felt chills. Sir, my wife and I are still pretty good. He endured it, but he couldn't, and asked cautiously, what if my uncle broke my leg? Bai Shan said indifferently, he li. Lieutenant Dong. Bai Shan lifted his eyelids to look at him. Your uncle broke your leg, will you not resent your wife? Can your family not resent your wife? Wei Dong thought for a while, then shook his head honestly. Bai Shan, that's it, you can't let you live in resentment for the rest of your life, so just reconcile. Captain Dong County, then my wife and I are deeply in love. Bai Shan, what's so difficult about this? You can get married again. Can the county government care whether you get married after you're single? Dong Xianwei thought it seemed reasonable, but he always felt that something was wrong. Take Jiao Wu as an example. Bai Shan's face sank and said, it must be Heli. He beat his wife and children more than once, and he didn't need the county government. The clan and Lijhan should regulate their behavior. According to the clan system, his son can be brought by his wife, or he can be raised by the clan. If the wife and clan are incapable, he can also be expelled from the clan, and his son can be the head of the household, and the clan can help him. This happened to the Bai family in Longzhou, but it was more than 100 years ago. At that time, an aunt of the Bai family got married, and her husband was violent and could not help but beat his wife and servants. The Bai family wanted to bring the aunt back, but the aunt couldn't bear the child, so the Bai family asked the other family to expel him from the clan, and the aunt's son would inherit the house. Bai Shan encouraged Dong Xianwei, don't look at the partiality of these laws, few people know about them, but the ancestors did take into account all kinds of situations, so they still have to publicize them. This county is not afraid of the large number of people in the county, so let the Yamen do more propaganda, appease the people, let them cultivate themselves, and don't think about beating their wives and sons all day long. Bai Shan said, in this era, it is difficult for widows to marry. Daughter-in-law, do widows still worry about getting married? Lieutenant Dong County, widows really don't have to worry about getting married. Satisfied, Bai Shan waved Wei Dong to retire. This county is going home for lunch, so I'll give you this law of Jin. I know, you all only like to read the lines with large characters. That's all, I don't read many of the rules below, there are some annotations I wrote, and I also included some cases in it, you can read more. Dong Xianwei held the book, and the whole person froze. If he wasn't the county lieutenant, he wouldn't have read the law of Jin. It's already a headache to read it, and now I have to read it from the beginning, even the small print? Bai Shan patted him on the shoulder as a sign of encouragement and turned away. He didn't like to read the law of Jin before, it was very boring. When he read many of the articles, he thought it was simple and understandable, but he didn't remember it long after he put down the book. Later, he went to Yazhu City, and after getting to know Brother Tang, he borrowed 5 copies of his Law of Jin for him. It wasn't printed, it was a handwritten copy, and he copied 5 thicker copies of the Jin Law by hand, because it was mixed with annotations and case records. Only later did he know that it was the birthday gift that old Master Tang gave Tang Xuexian, and then Tang Xuexiang added a little note to it. Because Bai Shan doesn't like criminal law so much, reading Jin law is basically a rote memorization, and he feels that when he goes out to be a county magistrate in the future, it is very likely that wrongful convictions will happen, so he temporarily lent his precious book to him. With these 5 books, Mr. Zhuang found some cases for him, and he became more interested and diligent when he studied the law books. Except for the law of Jin, he also read other law books. The book that was given to Captain Dong was flipped through after he came to Bihai County, and sometimes he couldn't help but make some annotations on it. Bai Shan returned to the backyard. Zhou Man hadn't come back, so he waited for a while, and she hadn't come back after a quarter of an hour, so Bai Shan couldn't help but read the missing engraving, dropped the book and walked out to the courtyard door. The lady hasn't come back yet. Return. Mei said, no, slave to see. Bai Shan thought for a while and said, forget it, you go to the kitchen to pack the food, and I'll take it to her. If she doesn't come back on time for dinner, there must be a patient in the medical department, and it's not far away anyway, so he will send it. In May, I went to the kitchen to pack food boxes. Thinking that it was hot now, I brought some of the sour plum soup made by Mrs. He. Daji took the food box and went to the hospital with Bai Shan. Bai Shan carried a pot of sour plum soup in his hand. Because of the sun, he opened the fan to cover his head, and walked into the alley to feel better. He walked along the corner to the medical office. As soon as I entered the yard, I saw a lot of people standing in line under the corridor. They were all ragged and their straw shoes were broken. Bai Shan was astonished and went in with the sour plum soup to find Zhou Man. Zhou Man was seeing a doctor, and when she saw Bai Shan at the door, she looked out, and after seeing the patient in her hand, she said to Xiao Cao, we are going to eat, let them rest in the corridor first, go to ask Mrs. Xiao if the porridge she made is ready, and if it does, take them to use a bowl of porridge, and you won't be sick when you don't come, but you will be starving and sick after standing here for a long time. Xiao Cao responded. Wen Tiandong also finished the diagnosis over there, and retired to the backyard for dinner with Zhou Man. Bai Shan put out the food and asked the two of them curiously, why are there so many patients suddenly? Wen Tiandong said in a speechless manner, because the farming has been busy. Zhou Mandao, we used to go to the countryside for publicity. After the busy farming season, they would be vacant, and sick children and elderly people at home would be sent to the city to see a doctor. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2965. Because Zhou Man said that the lower households do not need money for medicines, and the middle households do not need medical fees, there are still many people in a village who meet to see a doctor. They also deliberately put on their worst clothes, just to make themselves look particularly poor. Zhou Man doesn't mind, as long as they're happy. Anyway, she's a householder in a household that is recognized by the county government, and the standard is based on that. The people who come here are villagers from several nearby villages. They started yesterday, walked for a day, stayed outside the city for another night, and only came in this morning. Zhou Man was very emotional and very happy. At last someone is willing to come to the medical office to see a doctor. Bai Shan glanced outside and said with a smile, there are also many women. Wen Tiandong also looked up and explained, they came with the elderly and children at home, and they didn't look at them. But I want to show them. Zhou Man turned his head to Wen Tiandong and said, you're a woman who doesn't speak well, let her come to me in a while. Anyway, there are only these patients today, and everyone who comes here feels the pulse. Accumulate experience, see a doctor when you are sick, and feel at ease when you are not sick. Wen Tiandong, as long as you are happy. In this way, there is no one who does not miss an opportunity to feel the pulse. Bai Shan kept silent, poured a bowl of sour plum soup for her, and asked, I think it's very hot. Sister, he has cooked a lot of sour plum soup at home. I asked her to add some more water and bring it to them to relieve the heat. Zhou Man responded with a sigh, okay. She felt that Bai Shan had already brought her lunch in person and cared so much about her, so she asked him with concern, is your case over? Bai Shan nodded, the trial is over, and the judgment has already been made. Small cases don't have to be handed over to the governor's office, and they can take effect directly. Then Bai Shan was slapped in the face. The next day, he sent Zhu Qi and others out of the city to serve. Although Lieutenant Dong and the officers did not understand why he came to see off a group of prisoners, they also stood by and waited honestly. On. Bai Shan handed a piece of paper to Zhu Qi and said, you know how to read, and it's you who led these people to do bad things. You should still be the leader when you serve. Bai Shandao, when you get there, you will go to Qi Lijian to take care of it. This list is the time of day you have to work, the cost of each person's 3 meals a day, and the basic menu. He said, the county government paid you all this money, and it also came from the taxes of the common people. Your service is to atone for your sins, but the common people will not pluck wool according to you. Think about yourself, and after returning from service, you can be a good person and never do anything wrong again. Zhu Qi and others felt complicated in their hearts, and many others were moved and hurriedly responded. Seeing Bai Shan Wen, one person couldn't help but ask, Sir, how is our third brother? The one who fell off the cliff. Bai Shan sighed. When everyone heard his sigh, their eyes were red for a while, and there were 2 younger ones who immediately cried out. He was very lucky. He fell and hung on a tree, but he couldn't get down or get up. It took a long time for the Inspector Luo to hang the man up. There was no major problem. He was hungry for 3 days. Crowd. One of the 2 young men who were crying was excited, and the snot came out. Bai Shan turned his head away without looking at it, but the 2 young men rubbed their noses indifferently, and quickly asked, what about Mina? Bai Shan said, it's rather miserable. After waking up once, the rest of the day is to take care of him. I don't know if he will become stupid. If you have to pay a fine, do you want to help his family after you go out? Crowd. Zhu Qi quickly said, Sir, I will pay his fine. Bai Shan nodded, very good, you all go to serve first. The one who fell off the cliff tomorrow will be with you. Work hard and try to build the road in Xiaolai village. Everyone was a little overwhelmed by his encouragement, but they really had some ambitions, and they didn't feel how uncomfortable it was to be punished to serve. Only then did Bai Shan turn his head and instruct the yeoman, remember the words of this county, teach them the law more in your spare time, serving is hard work, don't lose them when it comes to food, that menu is the achievement of my 10 years of research, just follow the menu. Servants. They also responded, not knowing what to do. Dong Xianwei waited for them to walk away, and couldn't help but ask, Sir, why did you study the menu for 10 years? He has seen it, isn't it just 2 steamed buns, an egg, and a stack of pickled vegetables for breakfast, 3 large steamed buns and 2 hot dishes at noon, one of which must have 2 pieces of meat. Not to mention dealing with prisoners serving in the military, it is also very rich for the convicts who serve every year. Bai Shan looked up at the sky with his hands behind his back and said, I'm afraid to scare them, so I shortened the time. In fact, I have been studying it for more than 10 years. An adult male serving in the military must eat at least so much food every day to be able to do it. Can withstand such a large labor consumption. Looking at Bai Shan's age, Dong Xianwei couldn't help but ask, Sir, how can you study this? Bai Shan glanced at him and said, isn't this normal? There are people in the village who go to serve every year. If you are interested in seeing it, you will naturally study it. He went back to the county office, but before he even entered the door, Fang Xiancheng anxiously greeted him, leaned into Bai Shan's ear and whispered, there is someone from the governor's office. Bai Shan raised his eyebrows, thinking that the prince was coming soon, so he happily walked in, and Fang Xiancheng chased after him and said anxiously, "It's for Song Min's case." Bai Shan's smile suddenly collapsed. When Fang Xiancheng and Dong Xianwei saw this change of face, they couldn't help but admire them in their hearts, but they still had to do business. Fang Xiancheng lowered his voice and said, "The governor's office means that Zhu Qi and others have harmed the village, and their stubbornness is hard to change. It's enough to sentence them. Song Min is already the steward of the salt field, and he won't spy on the new salt field for such trivial matters. So." Bai Shan pursed the corners of his mouth. Instead of going directly to the lobby, he turned around and went to the office, successfully avoiding the people from the governor's mansion. He asked, "The Song family got through the relationship with the governor of Guo?" "It should be," Fang Xiancheng sighed, "otherwise, Guo Shishi wouldn't have specially sent someone to speak for Song Min." Bai Shan was very skeptical. Could it be that the little devil is difficult to deal with, but it's not what the governor Guo meant. Fang Xiancheng was silent for a while and then said, "But it is the staff around Guo inspector who are here." Bai Shan. He stretched out his hand and rubbed his forehead, thought about it, and said, "Just say I went to the countryside. I'm the one who sentenced this case. You can't decide, but you can accept it first, and tell me when I get back." A hint. Given the relationship between me and Governor Guo, I will not refuse. Fang Xiancheng, then do you want to agree? Bai Shan, I don't agree. You can fool people away first. Fang Xiancheng, the idea is a good idea, but this wicked person finally let him be the one. Bai Shan comforted him, "Don't worry, the pot won't fall on your head, it should be mine, so it's mine." I finally caught up with 2 chapters before 12 o'clock. It's a few tens of seconds. I don't know if it counts as my monthly pass. It's the last day, ask for a monthly pass. Next chapter, see you at 7 p.m. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2966. Bai Shan slipped back to the small courtyard through the small door that connected to the backyard of the county government office, and then slipped out through the side door to the medical office. Joe Man has no new patients today. The yaman who had broken bones when the county government arrested the bandits came to change the medicine. At this time, he was sitting on a chair and peeking at the western cakes drying the medicinal materials in the yard. Bai Shan sneaked in with Daji, and seeing that he couldn't take his eyes off, he tidied up his robes and stepped forward, reaching out and beckoning in front of him. The yaman came back to his senses, and was startled when he saw Bai Shan. He was about to stand up and salute, but only after he lifted his butt, he realized that one of his legs was lame, making it a little inconvenient to stand up. Bai Shan stopped his movements, looked at the cakes in the yard, and asked him, "Does it look good?" The yaman's cheeks instantly turned red, and the tips of his ears were all red, but he nodded, "Okay, it looks good." Bai Shan looked him up and down, and asked suspiciously, "Are you married?" The yaman blushed even more, shook his head, and looked at Bai Shan expectantly. Bai Shan's expression looked better, but after looking at him up and down, he shook his head and said, "It's a little difficult, it seems that cakes also like good-looking ones." Servant. Bai Shan reached out and patted his shoulder, "Although it's a bit difficult, you can work hard." After that, he turned around to find Zhou Man. The yaman watched eagerly as the magistrate went to the backyard. Man Bao was weighing medicine with Ben Tiandong, and they decided to make some commonly used pills for backup. Wen Tiandong is not very skilled in making pills. After all, he only learned it in the imperial physician's office, and there are not many opportunities to actually do it. Zhou Man is a little more than him, but he is not as good as the shopkeeper Lao Zheng, or even Zheng Gu. She sighed while doing it. It's good that Zheng Gu and Zheng Xiao are here. The two of them are the fastest and most skilled at making pills. Wen Tiandong, sir, I can also learn. Zhou Man nodded and encouraged him. She was slightly surprised when she saw Bai Shan entering the door. She looked up at the sun first. It's not time to eat yet. Bai Shan found a small stool next to him and sat down, pulled a medicine grinder to help them grind the medicine, and said, I'm here to hide from you. Zhou Man was amazed. You actually have someone to hide in this Bihai County? Who is it? Bai Shan, a person from Inspector Guo. Because when Tiandong was there, Bai Shan didn't say why he was hiding, and Zhou Man tried his best to resist the urge to ask. It wasn't until when Tiandong had disposed of the herbs in her hands and took the list to the pharmacy to pick out other herbs, that she sat down beside Bai Shan and looked at him with bright eyes. Bai Shan sighed and said, I don't know what the Song family paid for, but they were able to ask Inspector Guo to intercede and let me release Song Min. He said, now that Song Min is released, we should make peace with the Song family later. Zhou Man was stunned for a moment, then reacted, accepting bribes. Bai Shan glanced out, and said to her insincerely, be quiet. Zhou Man asked, then do you want to reconcile with the Song family? Bai Shan said meaningfully, it depends on what price the Song family is willing to pay, but no matter whether I reconcile with the Song family or not, since Song Min has committed a crime, he should be punished, otherwise he will set a precedent here, and in the future if someone commits another crime, they think that they can avoid punishment if they follow the path of the prefect, so how can I be the county magistrate? Zhou Man, you sentenced Song Min to 3 months in prison. You can't hide for 3 months, right? Bai Shan tilted his head and thought for a while, the prince should be here soon, right? What if he walks all the way to inspect like we did when we went to the western regions? The road from the capital to Qingzhou is not very close. Bai Shan, no way, His Highness won't be so unreliable. That being said, Bai Shan himself wasn't very sure, so the action of grinding the medicine slowly stopped, and he was entangled. If I send a letter to urge His Royal Highness, will it appear that I am eager for quick success? Zhou Man nodded affirmatively, yes. Bai Shan sighed, then I can only hide for a while. I'll hide from him for 2 or 3 days. If it doesn't work, think of a solution. He even thought of a bad idea secretly, and said in a low voice, do you want to ask the magistrate Lu to cause trouble for the governor of Guo? Zhou Man, can the county magistrate listen to you? That must not be the case. For the magistrate Lu, it is more important to have a good relationship with the governor of Guo, and he will definitely not have a bad relationship with the governor of Guo just to attract his attention. Bai Shan sighed and whispered at the same time, it was indeed right for us to cooperate with Magistrate Lu in advance. Zhou Man nodded in agreement. At this time, the envoy of the governor of Guo was persuaded to leave the county government office, but he didn't go far, and was dragged by the county magistrate to the restaurant to drink and eat. After lunch, he took the letter of approval from Fang Xiancheng and returned to his life. He didn't think that Bai Shanhui would not agree. Song Min's crime was a trivial matter after all, and he was only sentenced to 3 months in prison. It was a simple matter to be able to sell Guo Governor Guo's face on the sidelines. In addition, Guo Zishi was not only Bai Shan's Shangguan, but the two families were relatives, so he was absolutely safe, so he rushed back to Qingzhou City to return to his life, and told Guo Zishi that everything was all right. Inspector Guo accepted the things from the Song family with peace of mind, and then smiled. After a while, wait for the magistrate of Bai County, Xiu Mu, to send him a post, and invite him to Qingzhou City for a drink, and I'll mediate with the two of you. It's done. The staff also felt that there was no problem, and smiled and congratulated Guo Governor. Beijing County can stabilize, and the production of official salt will be no problem. The adults should take the lead. Hey, you can't say that. The magistrate of Bai didn't bother too much. He is the one who governs Bihai County. Naturally, the first credit is his. The county magistrate Lu knew that it was 2 days later, or because Bai Shan never let him go and did not change the sentence, the Song family had to go to the governor's mansion to give some hints. Guo governor was so angry that he smashed the cup and was alarmed. I just finished reporting the matter to the long history of leaving, and then I accidentally found out. The magistrate Lu couldn't help spitting out half a mouthful of tea and coughed violently, so the magistrate Bai and Governor Guo broke up. What about supporting Bai Shan and suppressing him? The official who came to pass the message whispered, "There is no trouble." Bihai County said that the Bai County magistrate has gone to the countryside and has never returned. Come back and talk. The staff sent by Governor Guo also said that he didn't see the county magistrate at that time, and they also said that he went to the countryside. Although I don't know if it was true or not, Governor Guo was really angry that he had been disgraced. County Magistrate Lu thought for a moment, leaned back on the chair, and said thoughtfully, "Bai Shan has more backbone than I thought." The official also nodded, "I heard that the Song family was tossed a lot by him. The Longqi salt field has been closed for 2 months, and he is not in a hurry. The Song family has clearly taken a step back and took the initiative to reopen the Longqi salt field. But the magistrate of Bai didn't open it, and even said that the Longqi salt field is owned by the Bihai County government, and it is up to the county government to open it or not. I also want to update 2 chapters at a time, but I can't do it, so see you at 10 o'clock in the next chapter. But you can try it tomorrow, update 2 chapters at a time. Come on. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2967. At that time, the conversation between Bai Shan and Master Song had already spread to the outside world, and now the prestige of the Song family has been greatly damaged. Even if he has now gone through the path of the governor of Guo, unless Bai Shan can be pushed out of Bihai County by him, the Song family will be forever defeated by Bai Shan. Press your head. The county magistrate Lu felt complicated and a little happy. It really is a formidable future generation. It is much better than he dared to do it after 2 years of planning, and even lost when he did it. The county magistrate almost shed tears of excitement and sadness. Inspector Guo lost his good mood. He sent someone to go to Bihai County again. Look carefully to see if Bai Shan is really not in the county office. Bai Shan really wasn't in the county government office. Since he was going to do a show, he had to do it more realistically, so he went to the countryside the next day. It's just that now the busy farming season is over, and the crops in the fields are growing well. It seems that he doesn't need to go to the countryside, so he thought about it and went to Longqi. He stood on the beach of Longqi and looked out, and asked Zhao Ming, who was accompanying him, "Where is Lays Hu?" "Yes." Bai Shan nodded slightly, looked up and saw that there were only a few boats in the bay, so he asked, "Have you been to the ferry in Lays Hu?" Zhao Ming shook his head, "I haven't been there, but Fang Xiancheng is from Lays Hu, so he should have been there. I don't know how the ferry in Lays Hu compares to ours here." Zhao Ming couldn't catch the words. He felt that this was very dangerous. "Is your lord trying to build a ferry in Longqi and grab a merchant ship to go out to sea in Lays Hu?" Bai Shan turned to look at the old salt field not far away. His eyes narrowed slightly. "The salt field over there is not bad, but the old salt field here no longer needs to exist, and he has to change his livelihood." Zhao Ming was speechless. Bai Shan walked along the coast of Longqi for 3 days. After walking around the surrounding terrain and villages, he turned around and went to everyone to see the new salt field. Zhou Liwei hired a lot of people to open a lot of salt fields. He calculated the time for each field to dry the salt. Although it was very hard at first, he lost his hair every night when he watched the data and the painted salt fields. Much easier. Sometimes he just doesn't go to the salt fields to check the situation, but he also knows which salt fields are ready to harvest salt by looking at the pictures he drew and the data he wrote down. Now the salt field basically produces salt every day. When Bai Shan arrived, Zhou Liwei was digging a gully with his people. He plans to dig all the way into the gully to lead to each salt field in the first row. The seawater that has been dried once will enter the second salt field in turn, and then enter the third one after sieving. The harvested salt is ready to use. According to the books given by Bai Shan and Zhou Man, in fact, there is another way to reprocess the dried salt. That is to rub the salt, add water, filter it, and then dry it. The salt that comes out is white and fine. I have seen such fine white salt. However, this is too labor-intensive and time-consuming, and it cannot be roughly dried in the field. After asking Bai Shan, they gave up this operation and felt that it is unnecessary to put manpower on this now. Zhou Liwei was wearing a hat on his head, and his trousers were rolled up to his knees. Maybe it was too hot. He was too lazy to wear a long robe, so he wore a short hexagram. He was digging with a hoe in his hand. When Bai Shan arrived, the villagers called him twice. He raised his head with sweat on his face. Bai Shan looked at his flushed face and asked, "Are you suffering from heat stroke?" Zhou Liwei wiped the sweat from his face and shook his head, "No. I think it's fine." Bai Shan frowned and beckoned him to come up. Zhou Liwei put his hoe to the side, and when he lifted his foot, he was about to jump up, but he stumbled and fell backward. Bai Shan quickly grabbed his arm and was taken one step forward, but when he was about to fall, he was pulled by Daji. Daji held Bai Shan with one hand and Zhou Liwei with the other, pulling the man up at once. Zhou Liwei only felt that his eyes were blurred for a while, and then he was sitting on the ground again. Bai Shan poured out a pill and stuffed it in his mouth, preventing him from swallowing it. "Take it." A strange smell rushed from the tongue to the head. Zhou Liwei was refreshed, and he asked with a bitter face, "What is this?" "Xiaxia pills, the pills your sister-in-law made," Bai Shan asked with some schadenfreude. "Is the effect good?" Zhou Liwei was speechless. Bai Shan has already said to Zhao Ming, "Let everyone call it a day, it's still too early, let them come back at your own time." Zhou Liwei glared, "Whose Yashi does not go to work?" Bai Shandao, "Now that the sun is shining like this, who's to say what's good or bad?" "You're right, it will take an hour to get dark, that's enough." Bai Shan insisted, and Zhou Liwei could only obey. The villagers cheered and went home with hoes, baskets, and shovels. They came to dig ditches not for military service, but as hired laborers. The wages Zhou Liwei paid them were the same as those paid to long-term workers in the salt field, much better than fishing. Although it is very sunny, they don't think it is very hard, because going out to sea also has to be exposed to the sun, which is even more dangerous, and people will die if they are not careful. It is much safer to dig ditches on dry land, and Zhou Liwei also includes food. They have eaten the most rice noodles in the past 2 months. After dispersing the villagers, Bai Shan helped Zhou Liwei back to the house. They built a row of houses at the foot of the mountain, near the Yantian. Now they mainly hire villagers from Zioa village, so the houses are mainly for the soldiers from Luo Patrol, and Zhou Liwei. His wife Lan Xian is also here. When they helped Zhou Liwei back, Lan Xian was mending clothes in the room, and when she heard the movement, she came out and immediately greeted her, "Little uncle, you're here." Seeing that Zhou Liwei's face was not right, he was a little anxious. "What's wrong with you?" Bai Shan said to him, "I have some heat stroke. Do you have boiled water at home? Warm some for him to drink." Lan Xian said, "Yes." Lan Xian immediately went to the kitchen to fetch water. Bai Shan helped Zhou Liwei in, Daji poured a basin of cold water in, and twisted a towel for him. Zhou Liwei put it on his face, plus the pills under his tongue. His dizzy head became much clearer. When he calmed down, Bai Shan looked him up and down. Task shook his head and said, "It's only been so long, Why are you so black? Let your aunt see it, and think I've wronged you so much. Don't be like this desperately. Even work should be a combination of work and rest. We don't need to eat into a fat man. Zhou Liwei, didn't you say that the county government ran out of money and waited for the official salt to be sold? Yes, but life is more important than money, and we have a lot of official salt in stock now. Bai Shan always cherishes his life, even if he is busy. He has always mastered a degree, and will never damage his body. In this respect, Zhou Manchu is especially similar to him. Except for a few special occasions, the two of them basically do not overdraw their bodies. Especially Bai Shan, so he always gives the impression that he is slow in everything. Zhou Liwei is a little anxious when he sees it. So he wisely changed the subject and asked Bai Shan, do you need official salt? Do you want to transport it to the county seat? No, Bai Shan said, the time hasn't come yet, so I'll keep it in the warehouse. I have nothing to do in the county office, so I came to see you. Zhou Liwei stared, being a county magistrate is so leisurely. See you tomorrow, Sawa.